with Reid Spencer of the NASCAR Wire Service. I'm CineSport's Noah Coslov. We're previewing Sunday afternoon's race at Talladega Superspeedway. It's the Geico 500. Reid, going into the season, you said that Tony Stewart would be the biggest story. He came back last week after the injury. He raced at Richmond, and now he's going to race again at Talladega. Or at least he'll start the race at Talladega before Ty Dillon takes over. What's it mean to have him back on the track?
Well, I tell you what, Carl Edwards found out that it meant last week that he would race him very hard. Tony was up on the wheel, and I think feeling pretty good because he got out of the car after the race and said he could go 800 more laps. But it means a lot to everybody in the series to have that guy back on the racetrack. He's a three-time champion, and he's sort of a lightning rod for the sport. He galvanizes people. He obviously drew a $35,000 fine the day after he announced his comeback for comments about the lug nuts. And then, of course, NASCAR reacted to the lug nut situation and basically said, we're going to enforce the rule on 5 lugs. So Tony clearly is a very influential person in the sport. And even though he's going to get out of the car in Talladega, his presence will be felt.
All right, so let's move on to last week's race and the finish. You mentioned Carl Edwards, but the finish with Edwards and Kyle Busch, Joe Gibbs Racing teammates. What's it like in the garage this week after a finish like that?
Well, we'll see. I wish I could have been in the competition meeting at Joe Gibbs Racing this morning because it could be interesting. I mean, Kyle Busch was very, very Marshawn Lynch-ish and very non-committal after the incident, repeating a road answer every time somebody asked him a question about it, and finally everybody just gave up because they realized that he wasn't going to address it. But privately, I'd like to know exactly what Kyle Busch thinks. It could be the apple of discord in the midst of a very productive, very successful Joe Gibbs Racing season. We will just have to see what happens. But I guarantee you one thing, when the roles are reversed, and at some point they will be, Kyle Busch will not hesitate to move Carl Edwards out of the way.
Yeah, that's for sure. All right, who's your pick for this week?
I've been struggling with this one. I'm going to have to go with Kyle Busch again. I think he wins this race at Talladega. I think he's on a roll, and I think he's just motivated after what happened at Richmond. Even though it's a completely different kind of racetrack, it's a high-speed restrictor plate track at Talladega. I think Kyle Busch gets the job done.
All right, it'll be a wild one no matter what. Reid Spencer, the NASCAR Wire Service. Good talking to you. Enjoy the race, Reid.
Likewise, Noah.